To have a chat to a very special lady now, who's come through a remarkable experience in her life that left her locked in, as they say, after suffering a stroke. She's now the Chief Executive Officer of the Fighting Strokes charity, Kate Allatt. Good morning, Kate.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very good. I'm just resting my muscles. I was out cycling yesterday.
Good on you. Did you do much?
20 miles.
Oh, that's enough. Now, you don't do self-pity. That's what I've been told about you, first of all.
I don't. And it gets you nowhere, and it doesn't ingratiate you with people, I find, as well. So it's not part of my makeup, but it doesn't help you feel better.
But first, to go back to the experience that obviously changed your life, you had a stroke.
I had a brainstem stroke, yeah.
Which is hugely, catastrophic for many people.
I was on, I had it at 39, I was a fit fell runner, and mum and everything else, we were young kids, had huge headaches. I had a stroke, went to hospital, had put in a coma, woke up not able to move a single muscle, speak, to cry, noise, to shout, to flinch, to kick my legs, to do anything, just nothing. Yeah, I felt everything, so I was in extreme pain.
So, do you remember opening your eyes that moment, or was it kind of fuzzy?
Oh God, no! It was absolutely fuzzy, but it was. I can't explain the hallucinations you get with all the drugs I was on and the heavy coma I was in. I was totally unconscious in that. But as I came round, it would be on and off. I would be very conscious to being not very conscious. But when I was conscious in that moment, first of all, I thought, what the hell is that coming out of my mouth? Where am I? What's happened to me? What's that noise? I was on a life support machine. I got a ventilator coming out of my mouth, before which later I had a tracheotomy fitted. Tubes coming out of everywhere. I had a nurse at the bottom of my bed that I could tell was a nurse in the uniform. And it was quite obvious I was in a hospital. First thing I'm thinking is, I'm here. And people are sort of mustling around me. And I'm thinking, I can't move a damn thing. Where's my family? Where are my kids? And I was just frightened. I was just totally frightened.
So you didn't wake up and family all around you looking at you and sort of...
No, I woke up initially on my own and thought, what the hell happened to me?
And you couldn't say anything to them?
No, I couldn't speak. I had nothing. In fact, I couldn't do anything. Just to get you to understand, I was in ICU for 9 weeks. And the only movement I had in ICU was week 8, and my right thumb flickered 0.5 millimetre. Right. That was it.
And were you conscious at any stage during that time of feeling, I hope they don't switch this off and think that I'm not responding?
Well, to be fair, and I've said this in my books on Amazon, running free and gonna fly now, and they'll give you an idea in terms of me. From about week 2 to week probably about 13, 14, I wanted to die. Now, it was never an option to me. No one would ever be given that option in the acute phase in hospital, so let me make that very clear. But me personally, even though I wasn't asked the question, did I want my life support turning off? My relatives were already asked that question very early on, very prematurely, I think, by medics who just assumed I was never going to eat, sleep, walk, do anything. But it was far too early. But they never asked me the question. But I myself, I couldn't verbalise it. I didn't want to exist like that. I was a 70-mile-a-week fell runner with 3 young kids, but my youngest was 6.
So you'd have happily, if you'd had the control of the situation, you'd have happily turned off the machine at that point?
I would have done it. It would never happen, though.
No.
It would never happen in the hospital like that.
But you'd have done it if you could have?
Oh, God, it was... I can't tell you the fear, the pain, the boredom, the loneliness, the indignity, the having to have everything done for you, bathing on the bed. The bed was the lounge, it was the bathroom, it was the bedroom, it was the everything, and it was just that space I occupied, and I just existed. I mean, I couldn't even move a stray hair from the side of my face that was annoying me. And it was often not even seen by people nearby, so it just annoyed me. Or I had leg cramps. You know, they were excruciating. I couldn't do anything with my leg cramp. I couldn't tell anybody I had them. I mean, it was awful.
I don't think a person listening to this can actually comprehend it unless you've been through it. You couldn't really.
Well, no, but you know what? I've just watched this morning, and Paul Lamb is on there today, and I'm very sympathetic to this whole Right Today. Now, in terms of a charity, let me make it very clear. I'm about inspiring, empowering, people making progress, and they do, and it's very positive, because that's how I am, and I think it's something I can help other people do, and I do. But on the whole Right to Die debate, because of the Tony Nicholson thing, I had an opinion, and my opinion is very simple. Everybody is an individual. Something should help someone like... The law should help people like him who are so severely disabled that they haven't got the independence and they haven't got the choice. We all think differently. You know, I'm not saying I would feel like him if I'd never recovered. I might have done, I might not. I also know Christine Waddell. She works in my charity on Facebook, managing the site. And she's been locked in for 17 years. She's 41. She's absolutely, of course she hates her life in the sense that she doesn't want to exist like that, wants to do her makeup for a start, but what she's doing is making the best of it, and she would not feel like Paul, but, you know, respect to Paul, that's how he feels, he's an individual.
And yet for you, Kate, I gather from what you're telling us that, I mean, it would have been the wrong decision if you'd have had the opportunity to express yourself at that point when you were on that machine. You would have said, turn me off, you wanted to die, and yet obviously it would have been the wrong choice, wouldn't it? Because look at you today. Well,
of course it would have been the wrong choice, and let's be honest, I know of enough examples around the world where relatives are asked the question of their brainstem stroke survivors or car crash survivors who are on ventilators having a machine breathe for them. They're asked the question privately, if there are complications like pneumonia or the stats go down, you know, we're not going to resuscitate. Do you agree with that? Now, that happens already.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and it also happens where, you know, I also know someone from South Africa, sadly, had a brainstem stroke, very young man, didn't want to exist like it after 2 weeks in ICU. He instructed his loved ones, who must have had more about him than I did, not to speak, to communicate with them. And they got the lawyers in, and he basically starved himself to death legally, painfully, but that's how he did. He didn't want to know whether he could improve or he couldn't.
Do you remember the conversations, Kate, around the bed when you were unable to communicate and yet you could see family members and hear them? I mean, people think because you're unconscious you can't hear, but in fact we're told to be very careful what we say around people who are even close to death because they can hear often quite well.
Well, you know what? I couldn't smell. The smells come back, thankfully. I could always see if my head was pointing in the right direction to see people or see people come through the door to visit me. And I could always hear. I could hear people wailing, relatives crying because loved ones are dying in ICU because they've had heart attacks or they can't be resuscitated. All very distressing stuff to someone who's never seen a dead body. Not being comforted at the time. Similarly, I remember, clearly in a coma, absolutely unconscious, no ethical moments, no nothing, no Disney-fied experiences, just nothing for 3 days. But when I woke up in between, in and out of consciousness with all these hallucinogenic drugs, yes, I was aware that my relatives were sat by my bed, you know, weeping at me because at that very early stages, I was considered unconscious, even though I was conscious, because I was so heavily sedated and so out of it that my pupils and my vital signs didn't really give an indication that I was but I was conscious. You know, that's how it was. And I remember my relatives weeping by my bed because they would always come in twos and leave quite often to go to the toilet. I didn't know until later they were leaving because they were going to go and cry and then come back and be strong again.
So they were careful not to show too much emotion in front of you.
Yeah, for me, that felt like, Christ, you don't think I'm in the shit, sorry, I've been swearing now, but I'm in a really bad way here, and you all seem very jolly, but, you know, what else were they going to do? You know, there was no help to anyone to be down, you know. I guess they just had all they could do was try and be normal.
Yeah, and I mean, people, Kate, I mean, I've seen programs, obviously, and I've actually had experience, but when people are talking to somebody in that situation, you tend to talk to them like they're a child as well, of course.
Oh, you do. They're very patronising. Yeah. I mean, all for the right reasons, don't get me wrong, but similarly, you've got to understand, people had to come and visit me in twos because they couldn't have a one-way conversation with me, You wouldn't last more than 20 minutes, It's pretty tiring. So they'd come in twos, but all they'd do is they'd have a conversation, but then always look to me to sort of involve me in it, even though I wasn't involved, but I was involved, if you like. It was, there were certain things that they had to learn how to best help me and communicate with me through blinking, which came 2 weeks after. So, it was tough for everybody, of course it was.
And how come you are who you are today? What happened dramatically?
Because I'm bloody minded. Because I've always been very determined. I didn't know I was going to make this. Some events happened I call it Magic May 2010. Up until then, I'd given up. I'd rolled over. I'd glazed over on life. I wasn't expected to do anything, and I kind of bought that. I went to my first review. In that review, I actually thought I'd made some progress, none of which had been visible by any of my therapists and nurses and neurologists. All my family in the meeting, and the neurologist opened the meeting and said, "Thank you all for coming. I have nothing more to add." Now, I'm dribbling in a wheelchair in that meeting with arms on pillows, thinking that meeting was going to be a positive meeting. And then everybody around the table said the same thing. I had nothing to report, nothing. And I thought I'd made some progress. I couldn't see it. I had to be removed from that meeting, hysterical, with my trachea blowing everywhere. And I spelt out to my friend through the communication board, "Stand by me." Because before I left, they were talking about my long-term care and nursing home. That was a bit of a trigger for me. It's like, you've all given up on me. I'll damn well show you. So now, I don't know if I could have... I didn't know whether I was going to get like this, but that was a big moment for me in terms of... Talk about self-pity. I was in that mode before, and then it came a fight.
Yeah. So mind over matter.
Absolutely. They still will my body. And then it was my 40th birthday. I was supposed to be climbing Kilimanjaro via the Western Breach. I'd booked and paid for it before I had the stroke. And I actually spent my 40th in hospital on my own because everybody went on holiday and left me.
Oh. And the recovery, was it rapid then after that?
No, not at all.
No.
Very, very slow. Lots of willing. Well, I literally stare at a limb in my body and just move. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, I got the 1 millimetre flicker of my left toe, and I just thought, if that can move, that's the furthest from my head. Blooming game on for the rest of my body, because my left side didn't move for 4 months.
You spend your time now motivating others.
Yeah.
And you help other stroke survivors.
All stroke survivors globally, yeah. Through social media, empowering and inspiring them to think positively, and everybody can make progress after a stroke. We might not make so much progress as me, but I'm very, very motivated. I had a great support. I had a great resourcefulness, but that was me before. I'm very motivated. But everybody can make progress if they try a bit and have small goals. My goal was to run again. I want to run again before I could even walk again, literally. You can see that video on YouTube now. It's one of my favourite ones called Let Me Out. As I walked out of hospital, they said I'd never do it. I did. And, other people, to make a drink of tea, or to even drink a drink of tea, or to pick the kids up from down the school. It's having something that's the appropriate goal for you individually. Not everybody can do what I've done, but then, I hope you wouldn't want too many people like me, because I'm a bit of a pain.
Well, I think you're infectious. I mean, your optimism, your humour, your enthusiasm is infectious, even listening to you. I mean, were you like that before the stroke?
Well, what's really interesting? I've always been a bit mischievous and up for a laugh. Never nasty or anything like that, but just always up for a laugh and stuff. And that's still there. The personality's not changed. Things that have changed as a result of my stroke are I get irritated more easily than I would. I get mood swings. I suffer with mental... You might not think it, because I'm talking about my comfort zone and my passion now, because I know I can help. But I'm not the gregarious person I was. I've withdrawn myself. I'm quite happy on my own company now, which was nothing like I was before. So many ways I'm like I was. That's why my third book's called I'm Still the Same. It's a collection of stories from stroke survivors all around the world. But, in lots of other ways I'm very different. And I just think, we can all make progress. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking stuff like I've done.
Okay.
But, we can, and I think I've got something to help the people with.
Well, if people want to find out more about the books, Kate, and the work that you're doing, you have a website.
Yeah, fightingstrokes.org.
Yeah.
I tell you what, something else is, this got really popular recently. My blog is called A Rocky Stroke Recovery, and it's literally that, my highs and lows of being a stroke survivor. And there are lows, but there are a lot of highs. I mean, it's very real and very honest. But my books, Running Free and Gonna Fly Now, they're on Amazon, and they've been really good to us, Amazon. So, you can get them on e-books and paperbacks, but they're there, and they seem to help people, especially the first one. So,
well, obviously for anybody who's looking for some motivation at the moment, or somebody who's maybe had a stroke, or has somebody in the family who's had a stroke, rockystrokerecovery.com is the blog, or you can go to fightingstrokes.org for more information as well. And I know, just finally before we let you go, you were the guest of I think it was a Deputy Prime Minister at the Olympics, weren't you?
Yeah, it was. Nick Clegg invited me to be a VIP guest. I got a ticket worth £2,012. Now, I had a meeting with him to try and push some charity work I'm doing, to try and get some help. And about 10 months later, he remembered the meeting, and I got an invite 2 weeks before the event. It was amazing.
Well, you're amazing. And Kate, thanks for joining us this morning.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, and please, anyone let me, come to me and I'll email you and I'll help.
Thanks a lot, Kate.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye. Kate Allatt there, the Chief Executive Officer of Fighting Strokes, a charity there. She's also a motivational speaker.